Hi, how are you? I am so excited because not only is it the beginning of a long weekend for me, several days from now, September is also just around the corner. And September is my birthday month. So I thought I would spoil myself early by narrowing down my TBR into, as I've always said in this channel, is one of my favorite forms of literature, which is short stories. Short stories! Yes, finally! I deserve this. So I decided to open and begin this reading vlog by picking up Dear Distance by Luis Joaquin M. Katigbak. And I'm actually excited about this for so many reasons. But low-key, I'm feeling bad because why did it take me 8 months into the year before I finally pick up a short story collection book? Why? I am particularly confused with my reading decisions, especially because my favorite read of 2021 is a short story collection book. So why did it take me this long to finally pick up a short story collection book again? Anyway, from what I know, Dear Distance is a collection of contemporary speculative fiction stories. And I'm learning this year that speculative fiction is so wonderful. And also, this is something that I bought last year in one of the earliest hauls that I did for this channel. So I thought it would be so appropriate to finally pick up and finish this book. I'm so excited. And speaking of books that I have purchased last year, the second book that I'm going to be reading for this vlog is The Terrible by Yrsa Daley Ward. I picked this up because I thought this is a novella, but this is a memoir. That is, how long was this? 208 pages long, so it's pretty short. Yrsa Daley Ward is a writer and poet of mixed West Indian and West African heritage. This is the author's picture. And this book is a storyteller's memoir. I've been very curious, so I peeked, and this is told in verses, which is very reminiscent of The Poetics by Elizabeth Acevedo. This is also narrated or told in poems, although this is fiction. But this is also one of my best reads of 2021, so I'm feeling really good that I would also love this book because this is also about someone who loves telling stories. Third book that I'm gonna be reading for this vlog is The Language of Dying by Sarah Pinborough. This is yet another one of my last year's purchases. This is part of the first Big Bad Wolf haul that I did. And as you can see, I think this is, I don't know yet, but this is the shortest book that I've had on my TBR pile. So I thought it would be really, really swift to read. I hope so. This is a novella for sure, and it's a literary horror, fantasy, mystery. I'm not sure. I just really wanted to read this because it's so perplexing to me why I haven't gotten to this yet, considering how short this is. And last but not the least, the book that I am predicting I'll be reading, if everything goes on schedule, the book that I'll be reading sometime around my actual birthday will be Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. Short stories and translated fiction. Two things that are so dear to my heart. So, it's, one of the most guaranteed ways that my birthday would be a good time. This TBR is looking very glorious. We have a short story collection, we have a memoir told in verses or in poetry, we have a novella, and we have translated fiction. This looks so promising, isn't it? Happy birthday to me, I guess. Hello, it's still a long weekend for me. I just got my McDonald's delivered and I look like an absolute mess, but that's alright. I just finished Dear Distance and thoroughly enjoyed it. As you can see, I've tabbed it so well. Short story collections never fail me, I guess. 5 out of 5 stars. I'll talk more about this later. And it is time for me to move on to my second book for this reading vlog, The Terrible, a memoir. Happy weekend, even though it's already a Monday. Finally finished The Terrible by Yrsa Daley Ward, and I think I will have to have 3 business days to process my thoughts about this book, because while this is absolutely an exquisitely written memoir, I still don't know how to feel about the message that was implied towards the end, which, as with everything about memoirs, it kinds of, makes you feel how unqualified you are to critique that particular piece of work, because this is their life. So, of course, who am I, right? Who am I to say my thoughts or opinions about their life? Yeah, this is beautifully written. Absolutely no question. But let's talk about this later. In the meantime, we're now moving on to The Language of Dying by Sarah Pinborough. This is going to be my 3rd book in this reading vlog. I've been reading so fast. Like, who am I? This is, I think, the shortest one in my entire TBR pile, like I said. Yeah, I hope this is also something I will be finishing as soon as possible. The weather is so consistently unstable. It's not even worth commenting that it's raining right now or it's super hot right now. It's always both. Anyway, so yeah, I've already finished The Language of Dying, and for a subject matter that's so hard and heavy, this is still a really fast read. The writing here has been really brilliant and rich with emotions, which is very appropriate considering how this story is focused on grief and the falling apart, the drifting apart of family relationships. So it is indeed about death, not just physically, but also emotionally, in a way, also mentally. I have tabbed this just for fun. I've only just used blue tabs because everything is beautiful, everything evokes such emotions in me, and everything is insightful, so I just used blue tabs all throughout. Anyway, now it's time to move on to my final book for this reading vlog, which is Convenience Store Woman, the one I'm most excited about. I was intending this to be read sometime around my birthday. It's still far away before my birthday, so I don't know if I should be happy because I'm reading so fast, or kind of, you know, strange that it's not something I'm reading on my birthday. So it's not according to schedule, it's actually ahead of schedule. So also, did I intentionally wear purple for me to match the book color? Let's just go ahead and open it. So, a significant time has in fact already elapsed from the time that I finished reading these books. I'm filming this way so late from the time that I finished reading all of them because I prioritize filming or starting a new reading vlog over doing a wrap up for these books. I think I can explain later in the process of talking about what I thought about these books. So let's go ahead and talk about them. So the reading list started very strongly because Dear Distance by Luis Joaquin M. Katigbak is a 5-star book. Yeah, this is also quite easily my favorite book in this pile. This has proven to me 2 things. Number 1 is how short stories are something really sort of a kryptonite for me. Like, I don't even know if I'm being objective when it comes to my review of short story collections because I love short story collections so much. Like, this is the first short story collection that I'm reading for this year. I'm really puzzled to this day, trying to think of the reason why it took me so long to pick up a short story collection book, but I'm so glad that this is the one that I picked for that. This is so good. And second of all, Filipino speculative fiction writers, chef's kiss. Like, if you haven't read Filipino speculative fiction yet, why? Like, literally why? You're missing out on so much if you haven't given our speculative fiction writers a chance. If I may suggest, I highly recommend this book. The stories are very accessible and so easy to like. Like I said, it's been a long time since I finished reading these 4 books, especially this one since this is the first one in this pile. But I still think a lot about so many of the stories in this collection. You know what? I think I'm gonna read to you one part that I consider one of my favorites. There are so much that you could love about this book, but let me read to you just one part, just to give you a taste of how divine, how terrific the writing is in this book. There are 2 varieties of betrayal, she explained. The first one everyone is familiar with. That is the betrayal of a moment, the impulsive act that destroys years of trust in one fell strike. That is the suddenly revealed secret, the sudden uncharacteristic infidelity. Everyone has heard stories about that kind of betrayal, she paused. The other kind is harder to identify and perhaps even more damaging. It is betrayal via accumulation, and neither party, the betrayer or the betrayed, may be aware of it, at least not at first. Even in the end, after the damage is apparent, they still may not be aware of it as betrayal, but betrayal it is. She took a long drag on her cigarette, exhaled smoke slowly. Accumulation, an accumulation of moments, or perhaps more accurately, an erosion of promises. In artists, it may be the betrayal of their talent, day after day spurning their muse, postponing their art, until nothing is left but the ashes of possibilities. In lovers, it happens when one listens to the other voices. She paused for a longer time, this time until I was moved to echo. Voices? Little annoyances, perhaps little fears, she continued. There is a true pure voice that runs under a true love, I believe. Otherwise, it is merely the satisfaction of impulses, romantic or lustful. She flicked ash and seemed to pick up the pace of her speech. But everyone has doubts, all loves, true or not, have troubles. It may be that your lover truly is not the one for you and a leave-taking is in order. But it may also be that you are swallowing daily doses of a poison. A third pause, the longest one this time, unbroken by me. Finally, betrayal happens, she said. It happens because you are weak. She emphasized the last word and ground out her cigarette on the ashtray as she did, and I knew the interview was over. Remembering that interview and typing this now, I decided to try and list my fears. I don't think I have too many, or perhaps what I mean is that not many of them are worth listing. I am, after all, afraid of wasting other people's time, or perhaps more to the point, I'm afraid of having my time wasted. I am afraid of avoidable hunger and a pain that is good for me. I am afraid that you might read this. I am afraid that you might think me affected and suspect me of trying to seem cold. I am afraid you will think I am uncool. I'm afraid of the next 3 years being the same. I am afraid of things changing in any major way. I am afraid that if I open a book with pictures of seashores and fields now, it will just be a book with pictures of seashores and fields. I am afraid of being found out. I'm afraid that you will never read this. This really is the book that inspired me to continue tabbing the rest of the books. Will definitely go to my best of the year list for sure. 5 out of 5 stars. Second book that I've read for this list is The Terrible by Yrsa Daley Ward, and I think of the 4 books that I've read for this vlog, this one has me the most confused. Which is a very strong testament to how powerful, how compelling, how thought-provoking this book is. And if you know me, I love thought-provoking reads for sure. I think I already expressed how conflicted I was feeling about this book because I really don't feel I have any right to say any criticism because this is a memoir and therefore this is someone's life. You know, this is someone's real life. This is not fiction and therefore I cannot talk over them. So I've been thinking about this book still. So, you know, there's no question. The writing in this book is extraordinary. Yrsa Daley Ward is a fantastic, gifted storyteller and writer. It's a privilege. It's truly a gift to be able to hear from her words how her life has been. I gave this book 4 stars. I think I would highly recommend this to aspiring storytellers who are looking into something insightful that could inspire them on how they can integrate their life experiences into the kind of stories, the kind of messages that they're trying to put out into the world. Definitely give this one a try. Third book on this reading vlog that I've finished is The Language of Dying by Sarah Pinborough, and this is the most surprising book out of the books in this reading pile because I was not expecting for a novella which has a very heavy subject matter, a very heavy and dark theme to be this fast of a page turner. So this is about grief, right? This is about death. This is about a dysfunctional family. This is about mourning. Like I said in an earlier clip, this is like different kinds of dying because it discusses how you're devastating or you are experiencing a devastation mentally, emotionally, and physically. Yeah, it's so gripping. It's such a page turner despite those dark subjects. So impressive. So I really don't know if I just happened to read this at a very good time that I was in the mood for it, or if it's because this is dealing with family relationships that I'm usually always invested and interested in. But I give this 5 stars. So good. I think I'm also gonna read you a brief taste, of how good this was written. Our mother loves babies, and even as children we know this. She loves the touch and the smell of them. She loves their wriggling need and the way the crying stops when she wraps them to her thin chest. Of course, we stop crying. 2 parts breast milk, 1 part raw spirit is what flows out of her and into us. She delights in babies, our mother, but not in motherhood. She has no interest in that. Children with minds of their own and a will separate to hers exhaust her. When we get to the foot stamping age, her love affair tires and it becomes time for another fresher, smaller child to satisfy the aching place inside her only an infant can reach. Fall is the first to be discarded, and then Penny, and then me. And the final book that I've read for this reading vlog is The Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. Where do I start? Okay, so I gave this book 3.5 stars. Which is to say, this is not a bad book. You know, this is not a bad book. It's not a bad book, okay? But considering how the 3 other books that I've read in this reading vlog are so impressive, it just makes me so sad because this is the one that I have the highest anticipation for. And then this ended up being the lowest rated. At least as far as this reading vlog is concerned. Maybe one thing that I thoroughly dislike is how this is marketed and blurbed so many times as a funny book. They're saying it's quirky, hilarious, this novel made me laugh, a deadpan gem. It's not funny at all. I almost find it quite offensive or insulting because a part of me relates so much about the initial thoughts of the protagonist, and for that to be considered as something funny, I don't know if that's appropriate. Like, it is a serious matter, so how come you're looking at it as something to be laughed at? Also, I know that it's not always a character development that we could expect in stories. I know that there are times where the story really takes turn for the worse. I'm prepared for that. Like, I don't question it. But the way it was executed just didn't really sit well with me. Like, especially the ending. I was so confused because it's almost like it's painting her resolution, her determination to stick with her craft to be something like a delusion. And somehow it's hard to blame these reviewers, these writers, for pegging this as something funny, something like a joke, because it's portrayed that way. Like, she is crazy. She's insane, and that's funny? Yeah, I don't know if I would ever consider rereading this book, if my opinion will ever change someday. But, yeah, I think it's very important to impress me at first read, and while I don't hate it, it also didn't quite live up to my expectations. And that's a wrap up. So as you can see, it's a very confusing, very mixed bag of books because I started with the strongest one, which ended up becoming my favorite out of this pile, and then ended very weakly with what I would consider my disappointment. But these are all really good books still. And I'm so proud of the fact that I have tabbed every single one of them. I don't know if you can see. Yeah. So this reading vlog was actually the shortest time period that I've completed this number of books, because I actually completed reading all 4 of these in a matter of like, I think a little over a week only. So it's just a matter of getting this video edited for sure. It's gonna take a while, but yeah. Certainly, I would recommend Dear Distance and The Language of Dying. Also, The Terrible by Yrsa Daley Ward. Convenience Store Woman. Probably. It's up to you. It's a case-to-case basis anyways. But, yeah. Short stories. I still love them so much.